The inspiration for the Jack Tyrrell thrillers came about during an annual reread of my favorite book, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I wanted to write a thriller, but I wanted to write a character who undergoes a deeply spiritual journey, as Dickens wrote for Ebenezer Scrooge. Suddenly, the first 3 Tyrrell books popped into my head, as did my hero, Jack Tyrrell, an extraordinarily capable man who has to overcome his demons by righting wrongs and helping others, with a little assist from the other side. I've never had that kind of immediate inspiration strike in my whole career. In the very first paragraph of the whole series, Tyrrell's wife Maggie is murdered by the mafia in retribution for Tyrrell's failure to deliver on a bribe. He spirals into heavy drinking and scaring people into paying their not-so-legal debts. On the 5th anniversary of his wife's death, Maggie's ghost appears to Jack, just as Marley's ghost appears to Scrooge. Maggie has interceded with the chairman, as God is called in these novels, to give Tyrrell a second chance. Maggie arranges for Jack to meet Harry, his spiritual guide, who introduces him to the people who need his help. Jack will become a righter of wrongs. This introduction mirrors Marley's introduction of the spirits of Christmas past, present, and yet to come. But for Jack, there's a catch. After he helps someone, they will never remember him. And there are no guarantees of success or survival. Jack has to be completely selfless. Fortunately for Jack, being completely selfless doesn't mean that wonderful things don't happen in his life. And the most wonderful of all is meeting Kim Gannon, the woman he's going to build the rest of his life with, assuming he lives that long.
I don't know how to explain this, but when the man I'd fallen in love with told me that he worked directly for God, it freaked me out. That's the kind of thing you hear from men on street corners shouting Bible quotations into the air. I wished there was a priest or minister or psychologist handy, someone I could talk to about this, but no such luck. It seemed like there were 2 options to choose from. I could believe him or decide that he was insane. My guy is a great guy, truly wonderful. Jack is 6'2" with eyes of blue. He's a decorated war veteran, a Green Beret, and a former deputy marshal in the Marshal's service. Since he'd left the Marshal, he's been a tough do-gooder of the First Order, a handsome, honest-to-goodness hero. But when he first told me that he worked for God, or the chairman as he called the big guy, anyway, when Jack first told me, it was not a good moment. I was sure he was out of his mind. Way out. Now, I believe him. And that's why I'm writing this diary. It's not as if I can talk honestly with my family and friends and tell them that the man I love works with an angel. Yes, an angel. And the 2 of them work together righting wrongs. Despite the fact that I believe Jack, and please don't judge me until I finish explaining, I go through a lot of uncertainty and confusion. Who wouldn't entertain some doubts? At least once in a while, over a story like this. Entertain doubts is putting it mildly. There were moments when I thought I would end up as a New York Post headline, "Dead woman found clinching St. Jude medal." I was channel surfing the other day and saw a few minutes of Bridget Jones's diary. Bridget, who's played by Renee Zellweger, is a charming, funny, 30-something mess trying to find a good man and the right job. In the midst of her troubles, she seemed to achieve a sense of self-awareness and find a sense of control over her doubts and fears, thanks to keeping tabs on events of her life in her diary. Bridget doesn't get a happy ending because of the diary. But I think writing it helped her get to a place where she could find a happy ending. Anyway, Bridget inspired me to give it a try. So, dear diary, now let me try to explain Jack. who works for God. This is my version of things. Jack's story would undoubtedly sound different. His name is Jack Tyrrell. Thanks to his time in Special Forces in the U.S. Marshal Service, he's a government-trained private detective come troubleshooter. The reason he became a troubleshooter, a righter of wrongs, was his late wife, Maggie. She was shot and killed almost 7 years ago. They were walking home and she was shot on the doorstep of the brownstone they lived in. Maggie was killed because Jack took a bribe but didn't deliver what he was bribed for. Some information about a relocated witness. One of his rationales for taking the bribe, as he explained it to me, was that he knew he couldn't possibly deliver the information. The Marshal Service keeps witness security on a need-to-know basis, and Jack didn't need to know. But once the people who bribed him realized he wasn't going to deliver, they went after him and Maggie. Jack told me that she should have known that they would go after him. He felt he was to blame for Maggie's death. The mobster who bribed Jack was murdered a few days after Maggie was shot, for reasons unrelated to Jack, but he was dead and buried, along with Jack's bribe problems. Jack spent the next 5 years drinking a lot more than he should and doing minor security jobs. According to him, he mostly used his size and reputation to pressure people into paying their debts. On the fifth anniversary of her death, Maggie appeared to him like a ghost. She visited him right in the living room and told him she was disappointed in what he had become. She had intervened on his behalf and gotten him a chance to turn his life around. Now, he's become a legitimate security consultant and a righter of wrongs. All because of Maggie. If this sounds familiar, it should. It's basically A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Maggie was Marley the ghost and Jack was Scrooge the lost soul. When Jack told me all this was the moment I thought, oh my God, he really is crazy. Then he said he wasn't asking me to believe that everything he saw was true. He was asking me to accept that he believed it was true. And that belief changed everything. And I replied, I still think you're crazy. Then I asked, what was the chance Maggie got for you? Jack explained that Maggie had arranged for him to meet Harry Mitchum. Harry wasn't exactly Jack's partner, more like his case manager. Harry was not a man, he was an angel. He worked directly for the chairman. I was completely confused and heartsick. This was going from bad to worse by the second. The chairman, I asked? Who was the chairman? Jack pointed his forefinger to the sky in a gesture generally understood to mean God. The chairman was God? Harry worked directly for the chairman and Jack worked with Harry, which really meant that Jack also worked directly for God? How could I come to any other conclusion that Jack Tyrrell, the man I had fallen in love with, was a complete, absolute raving lunatic? I said, you and your partner work for God. He admitted that when I said it, it sounded off the wall nuts. I asked if there was a way to say it that didn't sound nuts. And after taking some thought, I said,